Hi everyone, as you can see today we are starting a new lesson, the ecosystems. Having seen during the course the geosphere, the atmosphere, hydrosphere and the biosphere with all living things, now we are going to see how do they interact each other. So in this lesson we are going to see the definition of an ecosystem, what are biomes, the trophic chains in ecosystems, the trophic relationships among living things, and the loss of equilibrium due to human intervention. Okay, as you can see, an ecosystem is a community of living things, okay, that interact each other. For example, humans are living things, and bears are living things. Birds. Bears are living things. Do we interact each other in our lives? No. So we are not an ecosystem. But for example, grass is a living thing, okay? It's a plant. And deers are living things. Do they interact each other? Yes, because deers feed off grass. And those living things that interact each other depend on the non-living things of the environment. They depend on the water because they need to drink. They depend on the soil because grass needs to feed off mineral salts and take water from the soil, okay? And they depend on the atmosphere because they need to breathe, or the grass needs to perform photosynthesis. So this is the definition of an ecosystem. An example, for example, a forest, a desert, a grassland, those are ecosystems. Okay, so when an ecosystem is very large, okay, we call it biomes. These biomes depend on the climate. As we learned in the first term, there are several climates in the earth and they depend on the latitude of the earth. Here we have the equator, and in the equator is where the sun rays come perpendicular, and is the hotter part of the earth. So we have the polar climate here and here, okay, and the poles, polar climate. Then we have the temperate climate here and here, okay, the temperate climates. Then we have the subtropical and subtropical climates, and just near the equator and just in the equator we have the tropical climate. Hope you remember this. Okay, so depending on the climates we are going to find these biomes. These are climates, not biomes, okay? These are climates, and these are the biomes we can find in these climates. So, first one, the polar desert. The polar desert is when you think on the poles, okay? You are thinking on the polar desert. There are no vegetation because it is covered by snow all year round. Here we can find some animals like polar bears, the polar foxes, okay, Arctic foxes. But there's no vegetation, but in the sea there's algae, okay, which they perform photosynthesis and they produce oxygen. Next one is the tundra. The tundra is just below the snow, okay? The polar desert will be just here, okay? Just here. And here it would be the tundra. The tundra is covered by snow only during winter. And during summer, in the tundra, there's no snow and there's vegetation. That vegetation consists on grasslands, lichens, lot of lichens, but there's no trees, okay? Trees can grow in that cool weather. Next one, the taiga, okay? Taiga is just below the tundra in this part, okay? And here some trees can grow, but only pine trees, okay? Gymnosperms, which are pine trees, and spruces. Spruces and pine trees can grow here. And taiga is a biome made of big forest of conifers, spruces in this case. It snows during the winter, but the weather is not so cold, so it allows trees growing. Then we have the temperate climates, our climate. And here we can find deciduous forest, Mediterranean forest, and grasslands. I remind you that in the temperate climates, where the climate is rainy all year round, we find the deciduous forest, okay? Because trees lost their leaves during winter for resting, because during summer they can take a lot of water and they can grow. But in the dry temperate parts, as the Mediterranean, we find the Mediterranean forest, which is not deciduous, okay? And here we can find some cork oaks, okay? And it's not deciduous. Why? Because during summer there's a drought, so trees can't grow during summer. They do it during winter. During summer they perform photosynthesis with their leaves, and during winter they grow because there's water, that it's rainier during winter. Then in the temperate we have the grasslands. It's the prairies. Is where they appear both in the Mediterranean and the deciduous forests, okay, just near the forest, and is where the animals go there for feeding of grass. For example, think on a deer. A deer lives in a forest but needs to feed of grass, so he has to go to the grasslands for feeding. Then we have the subtropical. Yes. In the subtropical climate, we find the hot deserts. Hot deserts in this climate is hot and is really, really, really dry climate. So here we find deserts where vegetation are adapted to living there. Okay, there's no much vegetation, but there's the vegetation. Okay, there's a bit of vegetation. And tropical. The tropical can be a rainforest or savanna. Rainforests are just near the equator, okay? Rainforests are more or less here, okay? Because the climate is really hot and really rainy, so here appear the rainforest, which have enormous trees, they can grow. It's the rainforests are the places where we can find more diversity of animals and plants. And just near the subtropical, we can find some savannas. Okay, here, savannas. Why? Because the weather is rainy, it's hot, okay, and rainy, but it's not rainy all year round. there's a drought season in savannas. It's really hot, but it has a drought season. So in the savannas, trees, there's a lot of grassland, and trees are scattered through the landscape. Okay, they are scattered in the landscape, and they lost their leaves during the drought season. When it's not rainy, trees in the savanna lost their leaves for resting, and they grow in the rainy season. So I am not going to talk to you about animals that live there, okay, because you need to look for information, and I hope everybody knows the animals that live in its biomes. I guess that. And apart of these biomes, okay, we can find another biomes, which are the aquatic biomes. We have the marine, okay, and the inland aquatic biomes. Marine, just write it, okay, I'm telling it, but write it. The marine biomes and the inland aquatic biomes. They are biomes, they are ecosystems, obviously. So, point 3, trophic chains. What is a trophic chain? Ecosystems are regulated itself, okay? So, in an ecosystem, we can find the producers, the primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, okay? The decomposers, and the matter. The matter can be inorganic matter or organic matter. Okay. So, producers are the microscope algae, which is called plankton, the seaweed, and the plants. Okay. What producers perform is taking this inorganic matter, okay, they take this inorganic matter and they grow themselves, so they produce organic matter. Okay, what is organic matter? Organic matter are living things. Living things are made of organic matter. Inorganic matter are the carbon dioxide, oxygen, water, and mineral salts. So producers are the ones who take this and produce themselves, okay? They feed off this and they grow. They are organic matter. Okay, now, they produce this by a process called photosynthesis. Just write it here. Photosynthesis, okay? By this process, they take the inorganic matter and they grow themselves because they are transforming it into organic matter. Okay, the producers. Then, the primary consumers feed off producers. Okay, you put here the arrow and you write feed off. Okay, they feed off. Primary consumers are the ones who feed off producers. They are herbivores, okay? They feed off plankton, seaweed, plants, so they are herbivores. Secondary consumers are the ones who feed off these ones, of the primary. They are carnivorous, okay? The herbivores are animals, not plants. So these are carnivorous. And the tertiary consumers are carnivorous, and they are the big predators, okay? The big predators feed off these ones and sometimes these ones, okay? Okay, I'm going to put some examples. Producers, the microscope algae or plankton, okay? Or the seaweed. Primary consumers, these are herbivores, okay? Some fishes, okay? I'm going to write it in the example in another color, here, green, okay? These ones are the phytoplankton, the algae, okay? And here we have the primary consumers, which are feces. Okay, if I have fish, they feed off this. Secondary consumers, for example, would be a penguin. I'm going to draw a penguin. Okay, it's a bit difficult. Like this? Oh yeah, no, it's easy. The penguins feed off, they are carnivorous and they feed off fish. Okay? Then we have the tertiary consumers. For example, a killer whale, an orca. No, this is just like this. The killer whale or the dolphin. Well, the dolphin feed off fishes. No, oh no, it's a killer whale. These feed off the penguins and also feeds off fishes. Yeah? Okay. And now you are thinking, okay, so the matter is going from inorganic, producers produce organic matter, and the organic matter is going up through the chain. It's going to be eaten by the primary consumers are going to be eaten by the secondary consumers, and secondary consumers are going to be eaten by the tertiary consumers. And now what happens? Okay, now what happens is that they die, okay? They die, they produce waste, death, animals, okay? Death animals. And waste, which are organic, comes from here. They produce waste and they die. So this is going to be decomposed by the decomposers. So decomposers they take the waste and the dead living things, okay? They take all the waste and all the dead living things, and they decompose it and transform that organic matter into inorganic matter. And the cycle is closed again, okay? It's a cycle. Okay, a cycle with no ending. Remember, write this. I didn't write here. Decomposers are bacteria, protozoos, and fungi. Okay, bacteria, protozoos, and fungi are decomposers. Write it. And so I hope so far so good. It's not so difficult. And I think I don't forget. I'm not forgetting nothing. Yeah, that's right. Oh, yes. If you've seen The Lion King, the film, okay, Simba told her parent, but we feed of impalas, so we are bad. And the parent said to him, yeah, you feed of impalas, but when you die, the decomposers are going to transform you into inorganic matter, and you are going to feed a plant, and the plant is going to feed the impala, which feeds off the plant. So it's going to be a cycle, okay? Is the killer whale a real killer? No, because when the killer whale or some of the other ones are going to die, they are going to be decomposed by decomposers, okay? And they are going to be transformed into this, and the producers are going to feed off this. The producers are going to feed off this, and the primary consumers, this fish is going to feed off this, but this feed off this, and this comes from here and from here, okay? So remember that it is a cycle. Okay, so now we are going to see the trophic relationships. Trophic relationships are the relationships among the living things in the ecosystem. They can be intraspecific when it's among individuals of the same species, okay, or interspecific when it's among individuals of different species. Write everything. Remember, okay? Intraspecific relationships among individuals of the same species. Intraspecific among individuals of different species, okay? So, in the first one, we have the family associations. Okay, and I'm going to start explaining what is a family association. Obviously, everybody knows. Okay, we have the social relationships. Social relationships are among living things of the same species that need to cooperate between them for living in a colony. They need to cooperate between them for living in a colony. For example, bees or ants. They are social associations, okay? Gregarious are the animals, okay, that join together, they associate for traveling. For example, birds. Birds, in general, lives in the family association. But when they need to travel, when they need to migrate, okay, they are going to perform a big migration, they associate in big groups, okay, just for traveling. So they have a gregarious association when that association is only for migrating. And finally, the other relationships are the colonial relationships. Colonial relationships are when the individuals live really joined together, okay? Like, for example, corals. They are colonies. Corals are colonies. They are more or less of a social association, okay? Colonies and social associations are more or less the same, because we can say an ant colony, okay? Una colonia de hormigas, se puede decir. Okay, so this is not so difficult. I hope you write everything, all the definitions. Interspecific associations are among different species. We have three main classes. These two, this one, and these two. These two, predation and parasitism, one of the species is benefit and the other is harm. One is benefit, and the other one is harm. In the commensalims, one is benefit and the other one is not affected. And in the last one, both species benefit. Benefit and benefit. Okay. So, in this case, right. Predation, right. One species feed off the other one. Prey, hunt the other species. For example, a lion and a gazelle. The lion preys, okay, or hunts the gazelle. So the lion is benefit, past, okay, benefit, and the gazelle is harm. Parasitism is when one is benefit and the other one, what are you doing? The cat is there. One is benefit, okay, and the other one is harm, but the parasite is living on the host. In the case of predation, we are talking about the predator, okay, and the prey. The predator and the prey. And in the case of parasitism, we are talking about the parasite and the host. Predator, prey, parasite, host. okay? The harm is the host, because the parasite is living on or in the host. Next one, commensalism. One is affected and the other one is not affected. For example, pigeons and humans. Pigeons take a benefit of humans because they live in our roofs, okay? They make the nest in the roofs, but we are not affected, we are not harmed because of that. So we help them, but we are not affected. And the last ones are mutualism and symbiosis. Both are benefit. The difference between mutualism and symbiosis is, for example, mutualism is when two are benefit, okay, but they can live each other without the other one. And symbiosis is when they can live with the other one. They need each other for living. The cat is playing here. And yeah, the difference. So symbiosis, for example, or an example of mutualism would be plants and some fungi. Okay, there are some fungi in that help plants for feeding. Okay, and plants help them because they give them some nutrients. That's mutualism. Okay, they can live separately. But in the case of symbiosis, they cannot live. The other one of them can live with the other one. For example, lichens. Do you remember lichens when we learn about lichens? Lichen is a symbiotic association of an algae and a fungus. The fungus protect the algae from drought, okay, from getting dry. And the algae gives the fungus nutrients. The fungus can't live with those nutrients, okay? It would die if the algae wouldn't be there, and the algae would die if the fungus wouldn't be there. So the difference is that here both help each other, okay, but they can live separately. But in symbiosis, they help each other and they cannot live separately. And so this is all about this. Last one are the loss of biodiversity and the loss of the word is not coming to my mind. Well, it doesn't care. Now, what I want you to do is a PowerPoint presentation, and listen carefully what I'm going to say. PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to give you the directions, okay? You are going to choose a biome or an ecosystem, and you are going to do the presentation. You have to explain everything I said in that presentation. And when you are looking for information, for example, consumers. If you are looking for consumers, don't look in Google, or producers. If you are looking for producers, don't look at Google in Google. Producers of the savannah. No, please, no. Just think on a savannah or look for a savannah, and you are going to think who ones are the producers, the grass and the trees. Okay? So, yes, so it's not so difficult. But please don't look for that information so you guys always like too straight looking for information and you are finding information that you don't understand. You write it in your words, in your papers, okay? And I'm going to fail you. Because if you write something that you don't understand, that's awful, okay? So look for some information about, if I'm going to do it about polar, okay? The polar desert. Avoid looking for producers of polar desert. Parasites of polar desert. You are not going to find information with that because parasites are not going, there's no information about parasites of the polar deserts. For example, I know that there are some parasites which are the intestine worms, which are parasites, okay? Or the fleas, las pulgas, are parasites. So, if in the polar desert live polar bears, there could be some parasites as intestine worms or fleas, okay? But avoid looking information straightly, me, because that's awful, okay? So I'm going to give you in a paper the directions for doing your PowerPoint presentation. And I want a PowerPoint presentation, okay? And so that's all for this week. And this is going to be for next Monday.